Howdy, folks. Today we're going to talk about the KBEAR Aurora. This is a 10mm dynamic driver set. They have a titanium coating, I think is what I read. Let me just find that. Let's see. So 10mm titanium dynamic driver, 3D printed cavity design, and I noticed down here they have 18 ohm impedance, sensitivity 105, which is not super sensitive, and standard things that they would say in a listing for headphones. Cool. So these have I'm pretty sure aluminum build. They are actually quite pretty. They got some nice little blue accents right around the edges of this thing. Just kind of makes them shine a little blue, or maybe I think it's just around the edges. Yeah. There's the bore tube. Rather thick actually, but reasonably long and well angled. And I like the fit and the finish quite a bit. They're quite pretty. The cable itself that I've got here is hang on, let me just zoom out a little bit. So this is a Paul Wasabi special. Thank you, Paul, for sending me these to check out. Of course, Paul would have a very gorgeous blue cable to go with the accented blue KBEAR Aurora headphones. These are vented. Let's see if I could find it. There is a vent right up here on the top, and then yeah, there's another one right here on the front. So front and back vent, so no pressure buildup on these. The stock cable is this thing, which is pretty nice. Not quite as nice as Paul Wasabi's, but I'm not going to take it apart right now, but it is what it is. Reasonably cool. There's the splitter. Looks not too heavy. I don't hate it. It's all right. And then we have the nice little, I believe it's leather. Let me smell. Yeah, it smells, well, I think, not sure, but leather and a nice little carrying case for these headphones. All right, so let's pull up a graph real quick, and that is here. All right, so without even pulling the graph up, I could have told you easily that the bass is mid-bassed focus on these guys. So we're talking about this area down here, and it has some roll off in the lower 30-20 hertz area comparatively. It peaks at about 50. I don't really like that. I like it to peak later, preferably as late as possible, just kind of slope up. And this is a lot of low mids and high bass, a lot. Comes off as being pretty thick in your face and a little bit bloated, and in fact the low bass interferes with the mids quite a bit in my opinion. Then we come up and we have a 2.5K peak, and then I was listening to a track which is so nice. It's off of album Cha Cha Amor. I can't remember who did it or whatever, but basically the lead instrument is a it's like a maybe like a synthesizer piano, something close to that. And when I was playing that track on these, I was shocked. As soon as I turned it up, it just started screeching my ears out, and I was very unhappy. So I thought, where is that in this graph? I mean, yeah, that's neutral, but I mean, this is 10 dB up here. And then, so this is a little lower, but in fact, what I think I'm hearing, and I actually checked this with an EQ just on speakers, I'm hearing this bump right here at 5K. And so that track, it just really put me off. And then we have another probably peak somewhere around 8K. Hard to say, 711 coupler, but basically what we end up with is a bloated, a little bit claustrophobic sounding headphone. On some tracks, when you don't have a lot of mid bass and you don't have that a 5K something in there, then it comes off across as relatively decent. But man, as soon as you got that metal, rock and roll, well, rock and roll is okay. Metal, not at all. The 5K just takes my ears off and I can't stand it. And then this just sounds bloaty, warm, and then it doesn't have a lot of slam in the lows. Probably just because the mid bass obscures that to my ears. So let's just pop over to the graph. And so I got the Aurora on top there. So, well, yeah, I'll just start talking. Okay, exceptional factor. So I have it as a 6 because basically, as I turn these up, they actually become extremely fatiguing to me. And I think that that 5K peak, strictly speaking, I want it dipped out, not pushed up. And these break the rule apparently, because that's the hot spot for me on these. So I'm gonna give them a 6. I actually don't like listening to them very much. They have this like uncanny valley thing where it's like thick. You feel like you can turn them up as soon as you do. It's too much. Some transient snares, percussives actually are too loud in mixes slightly as well. So then let's go over to accuracy. I'm going to give them a 7.5. Sorry. Which is, relatively decent. I mean, they're not out of the ballpark, but the problem is that they actually sound reasonable. And so that makes me want to turn them up, and enjoy music. And then that 5K peak just takes my head off, and then the bass becomes a little bloaty, like I said, in your face, ruins any real good sense of 3D. Anyway, accuracy 7.5 out of 10. Wideness, we're going to give them a 7.5. They're actually pretty decent in wideness, which doesn't matter super much to me because, again, a little bit in your face, a little bloaty and all that stuff, blunted, shall we say. The mid-range sounds relatively blunted, actually, for whatever reason. And then for 3D, we're going to give them a 7.5. They actually have decent 3D in behind all this onslaught of mid-bass and that like 5K peak. So it's there, but it's a little bit hard to hear, and it kind of gets ruined. So 7.5 out of 10. Imaging a 7. The driver is okay. It's reasonable. As far as technicalities go, I don't like it. I think that it is. I think you could do better. Like for instance, the Tantrum Tanya in technicalities, honestly. And Tanya's not super special, but it's tuned better in those ways. Moving on, volume scaling 6. Yeah, it becomes very fatiguing for me really rather quickly. And maybe that's being harsh. I could maybe give him a 7, but like honestly, I don't actually like turning him up. So 6. Bass, we're going to give a 6.5. And also, it's just, I don't think the driver can do a super good job of bass texture. It has way, way, way too much mid bass, comes out bloaty, all that stuff, muddy, little blunted as well. So 6.5 out of 10. Mids, we're going to give a 7.5. They're okay. They're relatively decent, obscured by like low treble, high mids, like I said, that 5K area, whatever you want to call that, and then the mid bass just totally bleeding into mids and obscuring them in terms of what your brain can process. Treble, we're going to give a 7. There is treble there. It does not, I don't think, extend past like 9.5K at all. It just drops off a cliff. So there's really no air in this set, and you hear, treble, but no air. So not my favorite. It's okay. 7 out of 10. Resolution, since there's absolutely no air, and I don't think the driver is super technical, we're going to give it a 6 out of 10. Resolution, not great. And no pressure buildup. Isolation, a 3 out of 5. Yeah, they're pretty okay for that. Maybe a 4 out of 5 for some folks. The bore's a little big for me to get them in there just kind of like I want, but they're okay. Pretty good. Binaural, 2 out of 5. That 5K peak just ruins a lot of stuff, and then the extra bass makes it sound like a recording rather than like you're there. So moving backwards, we got a total sound score of 68.5 out of 100. And so we're pretty far down the list. Looks like, well, quite a ways down. So do I recommend these for $160, $170? The answer is nope, I sure don't. I'd rather listen to the Tantrum Tanyas any time of the day, like Etymotic ER2XR, if I could fit them in my ear canals without raping them up. What else? Yeah, not quite as spicy as other sets, like, say, Fio in some areas, but overall, I really don't like these. So not recommended, and thank you, Paul. I really appreciate this, and honestly, they're really very nice. I love the color aesthetic. Right on. Have a great day, folks. Talk to you on the next one.